Solutioners, we made it. We made it to episode 10, and I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart that's been supporting the show. Now, I told you I was going to get y'all a very good guest for this 10th episode, and I sure enough did not underdeliver. This individual, he is a police officer. He's a sergeant first class in the United States Army, and he's also on his way to get a master's in Stoicism. If you do not know what Stoicism is, please stay tuned and pay attention to this episode. This individual's got it down packed, and it's a lesson that all can follow. Through this episode, I learned a lesson that I'm now going to be using for the rest of my life. Please give it up for Henry Valenzuela. I think we're on. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
For sure, for sure. So, on the last episode, I did talk about having a special guest. Ain't no more special.
I'm the special guest.
Yeah, you're the special guest.
When I heard your podcast, I was listening. I was waiting to say like, "Oh man, this is going to be exciting. I wonder who it's going to be." I had no idea it was going to be me.
Yeah. Congratulations.
All right.
Yeah. So, the reason why, because actually on episode 1 I brought you up, and I think there's a couple ones, because I remember when I first started the full-time program in El Centro, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, you're doing good, but you could tell like it's not easy, but you're doing it good. But obviously, my background, I kind of do more of the on-ground tactical stuff and stuff like that. So at that point, I barely knew Control Alt Delete. And had to figure out.
I remember that conversation, and I remember the impact that you were having when you came in, and the point of that conversation. It's something that I learned. I had a mentor at the at the police department where I worked, and what she told me was we were talking. We had a lot of new officers coming in, and they were learning and they were trying to get through. And she worked more like in investigations with the victims and that kind of thing. She worked the victim side of things.
Okay.
And when I was talking to her about that, a lot of new officers or whatever, we talked about this one particular officer, and I said, he's good. And she's like, you know what? He has a lot to learn, but you know what he has? He has give a shit.
Yeah,
and that's it right there, And so that's what I learned about you, or I mean, that's where, as I got to know you, that's where I knew you had heart, you had give a shit, you cared about the outcome. And a lot of times in life, especially when we're mentoring people, we have new people on the team. That's the one thing you can't teach,
Mm-hmm.
There's a jujitsu saying, hyperfly. The hyperfly logo, they talk about, there's something on there that says you can't teach heart.
Yeah.
And that's and also give a shit is another thing that you can't teach. Either you do care about your job, you do care about the outcome, you do care about the people that you're working with, or you don't. And if you don't, you can't teach that. And so that's what I saw about you. I could tell you were new to the administrative side of things. You came with a reputation of someone that was very tactically sound and knew what they were doing. You came with a good reputation as far as, using your hands and using your mind in tactical situations. But as I got to know you in that administrative role, I could tell that was something new to you. But I knew you were going to succeed. I knew you were going to do well. And actually, when I said that to you, we had already noticed a difference in the company of things happening, and the difference and it wasn't as a result of your administrative prowess, your ability to come in and just dominate administratively.
Nah.
It was your heart, and
Yeah.
it was the fact that you cared about your job and doing the right thing for those soldiers, and that's what I was talking about on that day.
Yeah, no, I actually remember when you're saying, when you said the give a shit. That's like, oh yeah, you're right. You did say that, like, you got that give a shit, give a fuck, and from wherever you learned it, I learned it, and then I started thinking about that when it came to all the people that will train afterwards or deal with afterwards, cause yeah, that's the one thing that you can't teach, like,
Right.
you can't force someone to care.
Right. Either they do or they don't, and that's what that's what I noticed about you when you came in, and that's why you made such an impact kind of immediately upon taking over, and that's what we should be looking for. You know, that's what I look for in people, and I try to instill in others is you got to care about what you do. You know, and you know, there's a balance. You know, you can't care so much that it overwhelms you. You have to keep a certain amount of balance, but really, I think it's hard to care too much. You know, you really got to care about people
Yeah.
and relationships and your job. And if you do, you're gonna do well.
Well, at that point, I cared too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So it took a while because you got to remember at that point, I think I was what, 24, 25. I was young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So getting into all that and then going straight from deployment to deployment to deployment to deployment, I treated that like a task, right? So I try to do everything like super good, and everything is tied to my name, right? You already said I had come with a reputation of all the kind of hero shit that I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
Like how fucked up would it be to ruin my own reputation by not being able to perform something as if like you could perform out there, why can't you do this? You know,
Right.
why can you
Sure.
hit a keyboard on the computer or whatever, you know? But that because it's called like the Robert Greene book, and everywhere like your reputation is important. And even like we talked about when I started doing this, is like I never going to give a shitty product. So like from the beginning, it took me a while to start because I wanted to make sure that it was a good product because it's gonna be tied to my name.
Yeah.
You know, and then putting yourself out there as well. But enough about me.
So you talk about you know, I've read Robert Greene, and I not only Robert Greene, but I think there's a book called The Prince. It's a one of the great, they call it the great books, right? I think it's Machiavelli, I think, is actually who wrote that book. I could be wrong. I'm sure your listeners will check me on that
Yeah.
one.
Well,
But I think the book is called The Prince.
Let's go back with Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Like I heard it in like rap songs, but I don't know
Right.
who's that.
So he was a so he was a prince and a writer, and I guess you could say he had a certain philosophy about things.
Look.
He had a certain philosophy about things, and he anyway, in the book he talks about kind of so Robert Greene gets like the what's called like not the what does it say, like the 13 principles or the rules, or
So
40 principles,
the 48 laws of power.
48
That
laws
was the
of
one
power.
that really like set him off.
Right,
Yeah.
that one, right? And then by the way, 50 Cent, have you heard that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
So
50th law.
The
Yeah.
50, so I read that one as well. But a lot of it comes from the Prince, and it comes from the Machiavelli philosophy.
Mhm.
And you know, a lot of that comes from, and they talk about reputation,
Mhm.
and how you need to cultivate your reputation and how important your reputation is.
Mhm.
I actually have a much different philosophy, not much different, but I have a different take on it. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same kind of an idea, but it's one of my, you know, it's one of my, how do I say, like my, I have a certain philosophy of life that I follow, and
Uh-huh.
the idea behind, you know, the idea behind cultivating your personality. Maybe mine is different or weird. It may
Mhm.
be different than a lot of people, but I have a different understanding of it, and it comes from the idea that there's something called a dichotomy of control. All right.
Okay.
And dichotomy means basically splitting everything into two,
Okay.
and dichotomy of control, and really in life, what I try to do is this is how I've been able to kind of survive to this point, and on occasion do well, and on occasions not. But
Mhm.
it's splitting everything in your life between what you have control over and what you do not have control over.
Okay.
All right. So I don't know. I just thought of this story real quick, but so you ever shine your shoes like really well? Like really take your time on shining some shoes? You ever done that before?
I mean, like in the boot camp days,
Right,
but yeah,
yeah,
like
back
but then
in the day,
then the
right?
boots changed, but yeah.
Right, right. And I've done that, you know, through my you know, I'll call it,
Cause the police, no?
right, through my
Okay.
civilian job, my non-military job. I've done it in professional settings, and there
Yeah.
are some times that you can really, like, if you get good at it,
Uh-huh.
you could put a mirror on that. I don't know if you really, but I have.
Yeah.
There have been some times where I put a mirror finish on my boots because I wanted to look nice. I wanted to look professional. And there's something about, setting up your appearance in a way where people can tell you're meticulous, your attention to detail. And it's for those reasons, right?
Mhm.
Those are the reasons that we shine our boots. So anyway, imagine the idea of like shining your boots, getting them real nice. And I remember one time I did this because I had an interview, and but then I parked my vehicle. I walked into the office. I went through my interview process, and it all went out. And as I walked out, I looked down at my boots, and they looked terrible. What I didn't realize was that walking from the parking lot into the job, I was walking through some gravel and dirt,
Yeah.
kind of like the way things are here.
Yeah.
It was all for nothing, right? Not that it
Yeah.
was all for nothing, but the outcome, the outcome wasn't what I intended.
Yeah.
Now, is it all for nothing? I don't think so. And so that's the same thing about your reputation. It's it's your actions that you have control over,
Uh-huh.
not the outcome. So at the
Okay.
end of the day, haters are going to be haters, right?
Mhm.
There's going to be people out there that are just plain, just bad people that are going to talk bad about you, make up lies about you, or maybe people won't recognize the good work you're doing, or maybe because people just aren't paying attention for a variety of reasons. Your reputation is not going to necessarily be that that is equivalent to what your action is,
Okay.
and that shouldn't matter.
Mhm.
You should not shine your shoes. You should not present yourself in a certain way because the outcome might not be there. You should do it anyway. You should do it because there is value in doing that. But at the end of the day, what people are going to think of you, what they're going to say, is outside of your control, and you shouldn't really worry about it. And when I think about that, the other thing, though, about what people say about you, since we're just talking about stuff, is like, for example, when someone says something about you, maybe it cuts deep, right? They say something negative about you.
Okay.
It's like, first of all, you should ask yourself, is it true?
Mhm.
Is what they're saying true? Maybe they say that you're not very good at your job,
Yeah.
or maybe they say that your physical fitness isn't what it should be, or maybe they say that I don't know, whatever they're saying,
Yeah.
that you're lazy, that you're weak, that you're I can't imagine, you can imagine all the different things people could possibly say about a person. We should ask ourselves, is it true?
Yeah.
Is it true? And if it's true,
Uh-huh.
you should never hate the truth,
No?
right? Sometimes it's the truth
Yeah.
that A, you need to hear, and B, that's why it hurts. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why you don't want people to know about it, right?
Huh.
Maybe that's why, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
let's say, that you found out somebody, maybe you found out somebody said this thing about you, and it's like, it really bothers you. The question is, ask yourself, is it true? And if it's true, then maybe you need to work on that.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to work on that. Maybe it is your work ethic, or it is your physical fitness, or it is your whatever that thing is that person said about you. Now, should they be saying stuff about you? Nah, maybe they shouldn't, but you have no control over that.
Yeah.
But you do have control over asking yourself, is it true? And can I improve in that area? Should I improve in that area? Is that why it bothers me? Is that why it
Yeah.
bothers me? Because this person revealed some type of truth about me that maybe I wasn't even thinking about, or I was trying to keep hidden, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
All right. So then the other question is, or is it not true?
Okay.
All right. So is it not true? Well, if it's not true, then all right. So I don't know. Here's an example, right? So imagine that somebody says that I don't know, that the man, I'm having trouble coming up with an example. Okay, so let's say somebody said that the capital of the United States is Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
Did that just piss you off when I said that?
No. No, but the only reason why is because I always tell people about it's the donkey, the tiger, and the lion. I don't know if you heard about that.
Go ahead.
So I don't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
no, no, no.
so when it comes to that, it's like the donkey tells the tiger that the sky is green, and the tiger says no, it's blue.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, right.
Finish it. But
Yeah,
I
it
know
is. So they said no, the sky, the donkey's no, it's green, and the tiger's like no, it's blue. So they say, you know what, we're gonna take this to the king of the jungle, the lion, to see what's going on, right?
right.
So they take it, and yes, they tell the lion says, "Oh yeah, it's green." He's right, and I think he said you're gonna go a week without eating. He tells that to the tiger, and then when the donkey leaves all happy and everything, he's like, well, you know it's blue. Like, why would you say it's green? It's like, cause how do you look arguing with a fucking donkey?
Right. Arguing
Yeah.
with a fool, arguing with an ass. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. So let's say somebody says about me, I have no work ethic. I don't care about my job. I don't care about my soldiers. I don't
Yeah.
care. Well, I'm a bad friend or whatever.
Mhm.
Is it true? No, that's not true.
Okay.
Then why does it upset you? If a fool reveals himself to be a fool,
Yeah.
why does that upset you? The same person, a person says 2 + 2 is 7, and they're going around telling everybody 2 + 2 is 7. That person is revealing themselves for who they are, not for who you are,
Yeah.
right? And then the next thing that goes along with that one is this a person you admire?
The person saying the
The
statement.
person
Yeah.
saying the statement. Most of the time, it's not.
Mm.
Most of the time. And so here's an example on that one. There's something I explained to one of my kids one time. And I says, imagine if you were driving down the street and there's this homeless guy, right? You can imagine a homeless person all messed up. Their life is in complete disarray. And as they drive by, they yell at you. They say you're an idiot, or you're weak, or whatever they're gonna say about you.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Would you stop what you're doing, turn around, go back, park in the parking lot, walk up to them and explain to them that you're not weak, or that you're not an idiot, or that you do know what you're talking about? Or would you keep driving? Right? Well, hopefully you're going to keep driving.
Yeah, well, it depends what point in life I was. Like, when I was younger, I'd be like, let me
Catch
pull
you,
over real quick.
catch
I'm
you
gonna
on a
catch you
bad
outside.
day.
Yeah.
Catch you on a bad day.
Yeah.
Right? But that's it, right? And so you got these people that are going to say some things about you. If you don't, first of all, is it true?
Correct.
If it's true, hey, how about you work on that first?
Okay.
Right? Point at yourself. Get yourself right. If it's not true, why are you going to argue with an ass like your story, right?
Yeah.
And third, do you care about this person? And if you don't, then why is it affecting you? Why don't you just keep driving forward with your life? And so reputation is one of those things that's tricky, because in my opinion, it falls in the side of things that you have, not that you have no control over it, because what you have control over your actions, what you do, your work ethic, your attention to detail, your drive, the way that you treat people.
Yeah.
That is what you have control over. But then that next extension of what other people are going to say about you, whether they're going to appreciate what it is that you're doing, you don't have necessarily control over that.
Okay.
And so when they talk about cultivating your reputation or protecting your reputation, I think where I try to do it is I try to focus on what my actions are, how I carry myself. Am I living up to my own standards, beliefs, and principles? And if I am, that's going to be good enough for me. At the end of the day, if someone decides to turn those things around on me and say bad things about me, that's on them. They're gonna reveal themselves for who they are.
Yeah. So what happened? So I said I agree, disagreeing a little bit, but I do agree. And everything you're saying, like, you're 100% correct. But now the question is, what happens when that individual that's saying those things or pushing that negative persona about you has influence on people that directly affect either your career, your money, your family, something like that? Like, how would you go about handling that? Because sometimes that is the biggest factor that they
So the question I think you're asking is, what if they intend to harm you?
There you go.
Yeah. And I've thought about that. And this goes along with my philosophy of living in accordance with nature.
Okay.
Okay. Now, how do I get there from there? Right?
Yeah.
I'll get there. So living in accordance to nature is not about the birds and the trees and the oceans and,
Okay.
It has nothing to do with nature in that aspect. It is the nature of things.
Okay.
Dogs bark, fish swim, birds fly. Okay.
Yeah.
That is, and let's say you see a bird flying and it really makes you angry. You need to set your life in order, right?
Yeah.
Because you know what birds do?
Fly.
They fly.
Yeah.
If you see a fish swimming and it really pisses you off and ruins your day, you need to set your life in order. Because what do fish do?
They swim.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do people do?
They talk.
Right. People are who they are.
Uh-huh.
People like a scandal. People like gossip. Right.
Yeah.
It's what people do. And what you do in life is you control your actions. So what I try to do in those situations is I try to be the most honorable, the most honest, the hardest working, the most caring person that I can be.
Okay.
And in time, those things will come through. I'll tell a couple stories real quick, but I want to just say one other. I like these little funny stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you're walking from here to there, wherever here is and wherever there is.
Okay.
And on your way, you don't see a rock and you kick it and it hurts your foot.
Yeah.
Right? Do you get angry at the rock?
No.
Do you turn around and start arguing with that rock for being a rock?
No.
No, why? Because what are rocks? Rocks are hard. Rocks are heavy. Rocks hurt your feet if you kick them, right? And so that, it's like, what did you do? Did you not pay attention? Is it that rock's fault for being a rock? Again, fish fly, birds swim. Wait. Yeah. Birds fly, fish swim, and rocks are rocks, right? And people are who they are. And there's going to be bad people out there. And maybe they're not bad in every way, but maybe they're acting bad. Maybe they're acting in a certain way that's not according to their own. And you know what? People fail. People are people are going to disappoint. I have some stories in my life where, I've been falsely accused of some things that I didn't do. So I'll tell a quick story about my very first deployment, right? So
Okay.
So I was, let's see.
About Kosovo?
So when I deployed to Kosovo,
okay,
right? This is when I first got introduced to my true family, what I would consider my family these days, Aztec company.
The Aztecs? Yeah.
The Aztecs in El Centro, right? So shout out to all my Aztecs, for all of you listening out there. Check out the other podcasts on the Solutions podcast. And, there's some really good wisdom out there. But anyway, so here's what happened. I was the most hated soldier in that unit.
What?
They hated me.
Well, did that have to do anything with, because I know you told me that you were coming from like ROTC or something like that.
So what had happened was when I joined the military, I didn't know anything about the military. All right. I didn't know anything about the military. I just knew I wanted to serve. And years before, I had been told by a recruiter that I would never be able to serve because I had a family.
Okay.
That was about 6 months after 9/11 occurred. It was in early 2002. I went into a recruiter's office and I told him I was ready to sign up. And he asked me one question: "Do you have a family?" I said, "Yep, I do. I have a wife, a kid." And he told me, "Yeah, I'm sorry, you're ineligible." Well, that wasn't true then. It never was true.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened on that day that recruiter decided to say that. And so I thought I lost my opportunity to serve. And I really had a need or a desire in my heart to serve my country. And I thought, man, it's ruined. Years later, come to find out that wasn't true. I joined the military. And because of my ASVAB score, and maybe the recruiter was trying to hit some numbers or something. He said, "Hey, you should become an officer." So I joined the military with the intention of becoming an officer. I went to basic training. After basic training, I was going to OCS, the process of becoming an officer.
Wait. Don't skip over that you went to basic twice, bro.
Well, yeah, that comes a little bit later in the story.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But So I go to basic training.
Uh-huh.
After basic training, I go to start the OCS process. My
Okay.
gallbladder ruptures. I miss a few days of training, actually a couple of weeks of training, and as a result of that, I'm basically kicked out of the program because at the time there was like no reason, no excuses, no. If you miss training, you miss training, no matter what. And I got sent back to my unit. When I got sent back to my unit, they didn't know much about me, but they knew two things about me. They knew that I was close with the commander
Okay.
because he was the one that helped me get into the military. He's the one that told me that person told me that I was ineligible. That wasn't true.
Okay.
And the commander wasn't very well. He wasn't very well warmly accepted by the
By the
unit.
Aztecs.
Yeah, by the Aztecs, right? And I had no idea, but they knew I was close with him. They knew I became an officer, and the word got around real quick. Be careful, this guy's a snitch.
Oh.
He's coming in to find out what we're doing. And so it was crazy. I would go, and then right after that, I go to become a combat engineer because when I first went to basic, again, I was going to be an officer, so I didn't have a military specialty or military occupational specialty. And so when I went out there, and so I went to basic training. Well, actually, I'm sorry, I went back to Fort Leonard Wood just to become a combat engineer.
Yeah.
When I got there, someone didn't get the paperwork, and they sent me to basic training again. And it wasn't until I had completed basic training the second time that some drill sergeant looked at my paperwork and said, "Why are you here? You already went to basic training." And I said, "Yes, that's what I've been trying to explain to people this whole time, but I've been too busy doing push-ups and getting smoked to be able to." So anyway, I went to basic training again. Got sent back to my unit. And then we almost immediately got deployed with that reputation of me being a snitch, me being somebody that was supposed to. And in that culture and at that time, that was not something that was, let's just say it was a terrible reputation to have. I would go to sit to have lunch, and literally everybody off the table would stand up and go sit somewhere else.
Like
it was not hidden. It was not quiet. It was blatant. It was obvious, and they hated me.
Like some mean girl shit, huh?
They would put cheese on my bed when I wasn't there because I was a rat, So they were feeding the rat.
Oh shit!
It was terrible.
Get the fuck out of here! Man.
I found out later that there was plans to confront me physically. Let's just say, nobody ever did, but there was talk of,
just because of shit that they thought, not even because of nothing factual.
And that's my point.
Yeah,
it's reputation. I came with this reputation regardless of anything that I did. So you know what I did? I put my head down. I did my job. I did the best I could. I lived with honor. And respect, and I respected people whether or not they respected me. I tried to learn my job. I did the best I could, and at the end of that deployment, I remember we had like a big get together. It was a social event. There was some alcohol involved, and I can't even count the number of people in that unit that came up to me, gave me a hug, and they said, "I used to hate you." Yeah. And I was wrong. And you know what? You're one of us. It took months and months and months throughout that deployment, but it took me consistently behaving in a way that I consider to be honorable in ways that because I could have taken that a whole bunch of different ways, and that's what I did. And to this day, I consider those men my family, and I think they consider me theirs. And so, it's a very unique, a group of individuals that we have down there, the Aztecs, and we're very proud to be part of who they are. So, I don't remember where I was going with that one. So, I think we were talking about.
The question, the question was what happens. How do you handle when somebody's literally going out of the way to just
harm you?
Tarnish your reputation,
right.
Especially
with the intent to harm you.
With the intent to harm, mainly when the people that they're talking to or they associate with are people that have an effect on your career, that have effect on your income, have effect on all that. And it's sometimes stuff like me, like I said, not that young no more, but sometimes I'm like, man, I want to whoop their ass. But we can't do that. Right? It's illegal now.
And you know what? I think it was so we talk about resistance, right? Or if we talk about resistance and things that happen to us in our lives,
Yeah.
Jocko, what does he say? He says good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
This happens to you, good. This happens to you. And where that comes from, at least in my study and the things that I've been looking at, is something called amor fati. Love your fate. That's what amor fati means.
Okay.
And when we talk about amor fati, we talk about there's three different ways to handle something that happens to you. All
Yeah.
right. So again, whether that's someone, talking bad about you, because that's kind of where we've been. But let's say somebody does something else, or something just happens to you. The world is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a tough world that we live in. And if you don't think so, you're wrong. And eventually the world will prove itself to be what it is, right? It's a tough place.
Yeah.
You family members die, people get sick, accidents happen. The world is a tough place.
Yeah.
And so here's the three ways to handle anything that happens to you, right? Anything that happens to you that you didn't really want to happen.
Okay.
One is you can react emotionally.
Yeah.
You can get pissed off. You can
Correct.
get angry. You can, whatever. You
Yeah.
can rage, right? You can rage. And that's like what I would consider like the natural reaction or the animalistic reaction, right?
Okay.
And we all have that in us,
Yeah.
right? Especially like, if you know me and my history, I have plenty of, I have,
Moments.
let's just say I have all those tendencies,
Yeah.
right? That anybody else has, and maybe I have them even more, where the propensity to violence, or the ability to commit violence is definitely in my nature.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So that's number one, right? You can just react emotionally. Number two, you can just accept it and get over it.
Okay.
All right. And number three is that you can love it. And I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. But I like my little stories, right?
Yeah.
So here's one I came up with. So imagine you're swimming out in the ocean, right? You're, 30, 40 feet out. Maybe you got a little too far out there.
Okay.
All right. And you got a little too far out there, and you got the water beating you up. The waves are really beating you up, right? And so that's like life, right? You're just out there doing your thing. Maybe you got out there,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, the water and the waves, those are the quote things happen to you, right? What's happening to you? The water and the waves.
Okay.
That's the thing that's happening to you.
Yeah.
So you have three options. You can get really pissed off at the waves and at the ocean, and you can start fighting them, screaming and yelling at them, and really just react emotionally at these damn waves and water. Right.
Yeah.
Now, what are the waves and water doing? The waves and water are doing what they do.
Yeah.
That's nature, right?
Yeah.
Waves do what waves do. Water
Yeah.
does what water does. But
Uh-huh.
you're raging against that, right? You're responding emotionally to that. And then imagine like you go down there and pick up a big old boulder, right? Maybe it's sharp, and you swim back.
Okay.
You swim back to shore. That boulder to me represents that rage, that anger, that thing that you carry with you.
Okay.
In that emotional response. So that's,
Okay.
hey, you can do that.
Okay.
You can do that and go for it if that's what you want to do. Right?
Yeah.
Number two option would be the waves are happening to you, and you recognize, hey, this is just waves and this is just water.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to swim back.
Yeah.
Right? That's just accepting nature for what it is, right? That thing that happened to you, hey, it happened. It happened, but I'm going to just accept it and swim back. The third option, to love it,
Mm-hmm.
use it, embrace it, grow from it. This is the third option.
Mm-hmm.
You could surf back. You can use those waves and that water and
Yeah.
the nature of the waves and the water to propel you forward
Uh-huh.
and surf back in style. That's the love that happened to you.
Yeah.
That's that Jocko Willink good,
Yeah.
right? And in life, we're going to get resistance. And when we get that resistance, we have those three options as far as how we're going to respond to it. And the response of good, right? The response of resistance, for those of us that have done some physical training in our life, for
Mm-hmm.
those of us that have done some martial arts in our lives,
Yeah.
it is only through that resistance
Mm-hmm.
that we get to grow. If you are, if you don't ever lift a weight in your life, your muscles ain't going to grow,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
If you're training and you don't have a training partner that is worthy, that challenges you, that pushes you, you are not going to improve.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe to a certain extent you can do some self-training, and that's just not really how it works in my experience. That's not really how it works in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have another person there that's pushing you, pushing back on you.
Yeah.
And it's through that resistance that we grow.
Yeah.
So in life, when hard things happen, good. Like Jocko Willink says,
Mm-hmm.
good. Embrace it. Love it. I'm glad this happened to you. I'm glad this person is talking shit.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is I claim to be a person, my personal philosophy falls in line with Stoicism.
Yeah.
But then there's ask yourself this question. Is it? Do you? Do you really believe that shit?
Yeah.
Right? When I sit there and I read these books and I read this stuff, I start thinking to myself, yeah, you know what? You know, amor fati. Good. I'm glad this stuff is happening to me until it happens. Right?
Yeah.
Until my friend
says,
I found out my friend said some bad things about me.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden now I'm upset, angry, sad, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? A, was he being truthful?
Mm-hmm.
You know, B, you know, is this a person I care about? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
3, is he right? You know, and if he's not, those go right back to that, you know, and that gives you that opportunity to live up to those principles that you say you believe in.
Yeah.
Because I believe that every person has a philosophy of life.
Yeah.
Whether they have thought about it, whether they've considered it, whether it's their own personal philosophy that nobody else follows, or maybe it's some other philosophy you could go read in a book, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever that happens to be, everybody has a philosophy of life. But the question is, have you thought about it? Do you know what your philosophy is? Do you know what your principles are? And then the next question is, but are they, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say my principles are that every human being, but especially a man, should be strong. Okay. It should be physically fit, right? Yeah. So let's say that's one of my philosophies, or that's one of my principles.
Yeah.
Then the question is, but is it?
Yeah.
You know, did you go work out today?
Do you even lift, bro?
Exactly. Do you even squat?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right. But you know, and that's those things that come out, but there's a lot of truth in that. You know, are you living up to your own principles? And a lot of times you don't know that, kind of like with martial arts, you know, you know, you can train until you go to a tournament.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of, and even in a tournament, there is still controls, right? But until it gets down in the street, right? Until that thing, then I'm not encouraging anybody to go fight in the street and go pick bar fights to test their jujitsu, right? But
if it happens,
but you should be prepared.
Oh yeah,
you should have the ability to protect yourself and those that you love, right? You should be physically fit enough to be able to survive a situation. You know, you should be able to manage your stress in ways that helps other people around you instead of being a hindrance to those around you, right? Yeah. These are all things that you should be doing, in my opinion. But it's not until we get that resistance. Mm-hmm. It's not until we get that challenge that it becomes real, or it becomes, you know, like, you know, you always got to ask yourself, like, am I full of shit?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know what the beautiful thing about the world is? The world is going to ask you that on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at going to sleep the night before, you know what? I'm waking up at 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. I'm waking up at 4 a.m. I'm going to get my stuff on. By 4:15, I'm going to be on the track. I'm going to run 3 miles. Yeah. Then I'm going to go. I'm going to, you know, shower. I'm going to shave. I'm going to get ready for work. I'm going to go. But you know what happens? The next morning happens and the world asks you, are you full of shit?
Yeah.
You know, is that really what you're about?
Yeah.
And again, that's an example on physical fitness, but you talk about, you know, whatever it is, you know, hey, I'm going to graduate college, right? Or I'm going to get an education. You know, graduating college and getting education, those are two different things in my opinion, right?
Yep.
I think people should strive to educate themselves. And if that includes getting a degree, good. But so anyway, let's say you tell yourself, I'm going to get an education. I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. But are you? You know, are you on YouTube, or are you reading that book?
Yeah.
Are you doing your homework, or are you, watching Netflix? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, the nice thing about the world is it is gonna ask you,
Yeah.
are you full of shit? Do you really believe that? Do you? But
Yeah.
do you? But really, do you?
Dude, like, so I want to stop you there because the last time I came here, I remember you told me that, and you told me that based on the situation that was going on with you with your job, right? And that you asked yourself if you're really about that stoic life and stuff.
Right.
But literally since that time, every single time that I wake up and I'm like, fuck, I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave the bed like this. I'm like, nah, I'm not. I just hear your voice. Do you? And I'm like, shit.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna do my shit. Like something I always done is I always done my bed and get up early and work out and so on and so forth. But every single time that I'm just like beginning to slack, I just hear that like, are you about that? Like,
Yeah.
do you do you really do that
Do
stuff?
you
And
really
yeah.
believe that? Yeah. And that's what I believe about this philosophy of life. Philosophy isn't about, what is and what's reality and what if we're in the matrix. And maybe those are fun for some people and maybe they're
Yeah.
not for others. And you can get into all these weird philosophies about, the meaning of life and all these other, but I think that the philosophy of life is something that is lived, and
Yeah.
it's through your actions.
Mhm.
You're seeking wisdom, but then are you living in accordance with those things that you presume? It's
Yeah.
not for me to tell you or to tell anybody, hey, you should believe in this, but I think you should ask yourself, what do I believe?
Mhm.
What are my principles? What are my values?
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, but are they?
Yeah.
And do you, right?
Yeah.
What do you believe in? Well, I believe in this. Well, do you? Right? Do your actions, are you living it? Because otherwise, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Right? You're just somebody that's talking all this stuff, and so it's back to the whole idea of when something in your life happens to you, when that opportunity to say amor fati, and maybe it's a tragedy,
Yeah.
again, I've had plenty of tragedy that has occurred in my life, and there have been times that it's, when I was younger, that it was harder, and as I've gotten older, I don't wish tragedy on anybody, and I certainly don't want, tragedy to happen to me.
Mhm.
But when it does happen, it's an opportunity to live up to your principles, to live up to those things that you say that you believe.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like last time I came here, you said that, and every single time that I begin to slack or when I feel like I can go without the gym today, I was just like, nah, that's not me. Because I would give shit to people that don't work out, don't
Right.
stay active, and then especially for us, two things: one, being a dude; two, being in the military. Like, we have to stay fit. Like realistically, that's what I feel that we owe the people, is to be that 1% in that top 1%. We gotta earn our fucking chilies on Veterans Day, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We gotta earn that shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. But that was a good talk. But at the same time, I'm a person that I feel in order to be successful, you gotta sometimes love to suffer. And I like, and you can ask anybody that lives with me, that stays around me, like if it's snowing, like when I was living in DC, when it was snowing, like it was like a snowstorm coming, this and that, and it was just hitting hard. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go for a run, and I go out, just so I can remember what it's like to live in a shitty situation and shitty environment, because like we need that to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, that resistance. So
Yeah.
I would just, fuck it, it's raining or it's snowing. Okay, I'm gonna go out and go hate life right now for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
And I hope not to sound too wise. I'm always, when you asked if I wanted to do this podcast, I thought to myself, like, what the hell do I have to say about any of this stuff? Because I don't see myself as a person. I see myself like a work in progress, right? I know I know where I have failed, continue to fall short, and it's kind of sometimes hard for me to, you know, my point is this: is you got to stay humble,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm at. Is I don't have to like encourage myself to stay humble. I know where I fall short of my own personal philosophy, my own principles, my own values on a regular basis. But the idea is that we have to We don't have to, but it is. I would encourage. I know I encourage myself to
Mm-hmm.
stay on that path, to stay humble, to realize, because you know what, you can't, you what does it say, a closed hand, can't accept anything, right?
Okay.
Or a cup that is full, cannot accept anything. And
Yeah.
I think that we have to keep our cups empty, right? Keep our hands open, keep our minds open to ideas that challenge us.
Mm-hmm.
Keep our hearts open to the idea that we're not there yet, man.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not where I want to be. I'm not probably where I should be at this point in my life, but I'm continuing to work in that direction. And I think progress is, are you moving in the direction of, right? That's the test. Are you moving in the direction of, your value system, your, what you deem to be success, what you deem to be, the right way to go? And are you improving? Are you growing? And are you helping those around you?
Yeah, like on that, like I mean, you know, but so like me, I'm a lifelong martial artist. I've been doing it since I was like 6. I've been
Right.
doing some sort of martial arts since I was
Right.
6.
Right.
So a similar thing I always tell people is always keep that white belt mentality, right? Because
There
when
you
you're
go.
when
There
you're a
you
white
go.
belt, you're just soaking up everything like a
Right.
sponge. You just want to know everything because you want to get to the next, to the next, to the next, right? And even like us like we're senior in our jobs. Both
Right.
you and your civilian, and me and just on mine, right? But how many times do when I go into jobs and we don't fully know what we're doing, right?
Right.
But we got to stay open minded, and that's why I always tell people just keep that white belt mentality at
That's a
all
good.
times.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good mindset. And then gratitude. At the end, I like to say gratitude is the antidote to despair,
Yeah,
right? Because the world is a hard place, and I again, I've been through some dark times in my life, and even recently there's been some struggles, and where when I find myself in that dark place, when I find myself in that place where I feel like I can't even go anywhere from there, if I can remind myself to be thankful.
yeah,
And you only have to not be able to breathe for like 45 seconds when you realize how important breathing is.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And the thing about it is that
yeah,
we breathe every day,
yeah,
and we're not thankful for it.
yeah.
When I'll tell a quick story. I hope you don't mind.
No, go ahead,
I
man.
like telling these little stories. When I was in my early 20s, I had a nice truck. And I at the time, because of my job, I drove about 3 hours to go to meetings in Phoenix. And what I would do on a regular basis is I would pick up hitchhikers.
Okay.
I'm not encouraging people to do this, okay?
Yeah,
This is
like,
not a
okay.
recommendation, but it's
Yeah.
what I did at the time. I thought to myself, I could, if something crazy happened, I could probably handle myself, and I just did.
Were you picking them up for something to happen, or I'm confused?
So these hitchhikers would
Yeah.
be like on the side of the road as I was leaving town,
Okay.
and I'd pull over and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm heading to Phoenix. If you're heading in that direction, I'll give you a ride."
Okay.
And a lot of times they had, because I had a truck, right? So a lot of times they would have a pack with them or something. They're just heading through town. I don't know what they were doing. And I would just, they would usually throw their pack in the back of my truck, jump in the passenger seat, and we would go. And a lot of times, I think I wanted conversation maybe more than anything. I wanted to know, like,
Yeah.
what are these people about? Because I've always
Uh-huh.
been curious about people's stories and how they end up where they. Honestly, I didn't get a lot of conversation. A lot of times they would just fall asleep or
Oh, really?
really.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I didn't get a lot of gratitude. Like, I didn't get a lot of people who were like, "Man, you just say,"
What?
back where I live in the Southwest, it was it's really hot. It's really hot.
Mhm.
And these people would be sweating, and I know I would think like, "Oh God, I can't believe you give me this ride." And I
Yeah.
can't imagine a lot of people give them rides. So you would
Yeah.
think that they would. I didn't get that. People are who they are, right?
Yeah.
Humans are who they are. They're gonna disappoint. This is one of my
Damn.
beliefs in life.
Yeah.
But I remember one time there was this guy that He was obviously a homeless guy traveling from here to there, and I gave him this ride. And when we got to Gila Bend, which was a couple of hours into our trip, a little town, Anyways, we stopped. I said, "Hey, I'm hungry. I'm gonna get myself something to eat. I'll buy you something to eat if you'd like to." And he said, real humble. This guy was not like the rest of them. He was very humble and yeah, sure, yeah. He was. So
Yeah.
we went in there and I ordered whatever you want. And he sat down, and we didn't take it to go. I sat there with this guy, and I was kind of like in a little bit of like a business attire. And here's this
Yeah.
guy. So people probably looked at this as like this is a strange. I
Yeah.
imagined what people would think.
Well,
But
especially back in the day,
uh,
because now people do it for the gram, But
right.
back in the day, it'd be like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there was no. Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't posting it
Yeah.
on. Matter of fact, nobody even knew I did this until years later when I tell this story.
Yeah.
But before he ate, he bowed his head, and I'm sure he was thanking God or something.
Yeah.
But there was something so real about that. And then he ate his food in a way that actually saying it right now kind of makes me emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I realized at that moment that he probably hadn't eaten in a long time.
Yeah.
I could tell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about my life and how I don't have to worry about my next meal for the most part. I've never been so hungry in my life where I didn't know where my next meal was going to be. And I thought to myself, imagine if you were there. You lived in a different country,
Mm-hmm.
third world country. You and I have been around the world a little bit,
Yeah.
and we've seen some places that, where that happens a lot more often than it happens in the US. And imagine if you were in a place where you hadn't eaten in a long time and you were hungry, and somehow out of the blue, you end up with a meal, a full meal of whatever you wanted to eat.
Yeah.
How thankful you would be at that moment.
Yeah.
Well, that's how thankful he was, and I felt it. Like to this day, I still feel it when I tell the story.
Yeah.
But imagine this. Imagine if not only did you get that one meal, but every meal for the next so many years was taken care of somehow.
Yeah.
You had the means to not have to be hungry. How thankful should you be? And you know what? How thankful should you be? Should I be?
Mm-hmm.
And those of us that don't have to worry about where our next meal comes from.
Yeah.
But what do? We take it for granted. These eggs aren't very good. If you know those military eggs, you know how it is.
Yeah, well, I was worried because I always said they had that thing that doesn't make your thing work. So that's why,
the rumors about the lower your testosterone.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder if that's real. Maybe one of these days we'll find out that.
I hope not.
That is. But my point is that how thankful you would be if you got put into a situation where you didn't have to worry about your next meal. You should be that thankful. Imagine if you had trouble breathing, but somehow by the snap of a finger, you could take every breath you wanted to without even having to worry about it. How thankful would you be?
Yeah.
And all of these things in our lives that no matter what tragedies occurring in our lives, there's so many things to be thankful for.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I say gratitude is the antidote to despair. When those dark times happen, when those hard things happen, when those things in your life happen where they feel like you are overwhelmed with either being falsely accused or someone ruining your reputation, you're physically ill, someone you love is physically ill, mentally ill, when other tragedies happen, a death in the family, these types of things, it's hard, but if we could discipline ourselves at those times to focus on gratitude, not only for ourselves, but then to help those around us who are also hurting, focus on gratitude or think about the things, it helps. And that's, that's the other kind of a thing that I try to keep in mind in my own life. But listen, man, I don't have all the answers. I'm kind of struggling through this maze of life like everybody else. I'm sure that there are people that will listen to this and see like, oh yeah, but you know what? He had ice cream 2 nights ago.
Yeah, he
or
did.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
probably did. And so I
Yeah.
don't claim to have all the answers or be on the perfect track. I just know that I'm doing like everybody else should be trying to do, is struggle forward and keep pushing on. And yeah, that's where I'm at with all that.
No, I mean, that's true. So on that ice cream, right? What there's got to be a balance too, right? You can't be serious all the time, because that also can lead a little bit to, you know what I mean? Like the challenge and all that stuff is fun. It's fun depending on who you are, right?
Right, right.
But what about the people that we don't want that for, right? So at least I always explain to people realistically, dudes do everything for chicks. We do it all for the chicks. We do it all for the females, or we do it all for the family, for the kids and everything. I always say, and something as I said, like since I was like 6 years old, like 6, 7 years old, I always said like, if why do I want to make money? To get chicks.
Yeah.
Why do I want to be buff? To get chicks. Why do I want to be strong? Why do I want to know how to protect? To protect who I have around me.
Right.
Right. So we also have to have that balance of a personality to be able to not just be that with them, because we got to be that within ourselves, but them, they got to have a little bit of a break. And then I think things they're talking about the next meal and all that stuff, right? So I always see it like me. I grew up with like nothing.
Right.
Right. I made the decision to join. Now I say lower middle class, right? You know what I mean? I think that'd be a fair, the way that they pay us, right? I'm not an officer, so lower middle class. But that's where I'm at right now, and hopefully by the time that I get to my retirement, it'd be a solid middle class, right?
Right.
So my intent is, if I started here, my expectations for my kids, because they're at middle, my expectations is for them to make it to lower upper class,
Right.
right? But that's by us being able to suffer and to take all that,
I had on that, as far as your kids, and I have some kids that are young adults now. I have kids that are living on their own, and they've moved out of the house, and they're in they're young adults doing their thing, struggling through life like we all are.
Yeah.
And I think about, what do I want for them, as far as success, and what does that mean, and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think about when people, like, there's been some people in my life that have passed away.
Yeah.
And when I think about what they, like the memories that I have of them,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, for the most part, what car they drove,
Yeah.
what their house was like. I certainly, for the most of them, didn't even know how much money was in their bank account.
Correct.
But I remember how they treated me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the things, I try to remember the lessons that they taught me. And I try to remember those things. And so for my kids, I want them to have a sense of success.
Yeah.
I want them to feel like they are succeeding, or at least moving in the direction of succeeding.
Yeah.
Right? More directional rather than, like the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to be good people. I want them to be people of honor,
Mm-hmm.
respect, courage.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people. I'm afraid that courage is becoming like extinct, right? I really worry about courage in our society. But anyway, honesty. These are the things that I want for my kids.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, these are probably also things I want for myself.
Yep.
Now, will I continue to strive? Yes. Will I continue to be, try to become economically successful? Sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to struggle for my own meals.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have the opportunity to help others, I want to continue to do that. And, the poor man doesn't donate to, doesn't have the means to be able to help others. Let's just
Correct.
say that.
Yeah.
And so it is for those reasons that I want to be able to help those around me and that kind of thing. But as I've gotten older, my idea of what success is and where we are with, where I'm at in my own life as I, because again, I try to self-reflect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what I want for my kids. And
Yeah.
and I think, and then in turn, that's what I want for myself, to act with courage, to act with humility, to be honest, and to be strong. The other thing is that strength thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It, people tend to devalue strength, whether that's physical strength, emotional strength. You know, the weak man is not the good man. You know, it's the strong man that is capable, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the word capable is better than strong, but you know what? If you ain't strong, you ain't capable,
Yeah.
right? If you don't set your own house in order, you know, if you don't get your own physical fitness, your own mental strength, your own ability to you know learn, you know, if you haven't taken that time, there's a book called The Unforgiving Minute.
Okay.
And The Unforgiving Minute, it's a really, really good book for those of you that read. But The Unforgiving Minute talks about one day that minute will come where you were challenged,
Yeah.
you know, and it's probably going to come in a time that you didn't expect and in a way that you didn't expect. But
Yeah.
everybody in life will arrive at the unforgiving minute.
Mm-hmm.
And is what you have done up to that point that will dictate how you do in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've all seen these fights on the internet. I like watching, one of the things I like to do is like go on YouTube and watch these people that get in fights.
Like,
You know?
like fist fights or
Yeah,
okay.
fights in the street, you know, like some of them are funny. Some of them
Yeah.
there's all
Yeah.
kinds, right? And to me, sometimes they're entertaining to sit there and watch a little YouTube. But you know, how well they do at that moment
Yeah.
is what they have done to prepare for that moment,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And whether it's again physical confrontation, a mental, you know, like something you had to solve, you know, some type of something happens. What have you done to this point that has prepared you? Because everybody will arrive at that unforgiving minute, and so yeah, that's why I do the things that I do. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, so that puts into a reminder because every single deployment after my first one. So my first one, I had a very what most people would consider. They would consider him like a toxic leader, a difficult person to deal with, right? But that individual at that point, he was. I think that was going on his third deployment when I was going on my first, right? And I remember that all day, all the time, he would have us training. All right, so it's a it reminded like this guy. I remember everybody they did not like him, right? Because we were training all the time. Like if we had 5 minutes of break, 3 minutes worth of training,
wow.
right? And I remember like I was like fuck, and sometimes I was getting frustrated. Again, I was when I was really 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 young, but then when that 1 minute came,
That unforgiving minute.
that unforgiving minute came, we all performed. And then I translated that to my training style on every single deployment. And there has not been one where later on it'll be like sometimes 5, 6, 10 years, sometimes it's even further. Well, people will tell me, hey, thank you for all that. Because of that, we're home. Every single deployment I gone, people have been lost. None in my squad, none in my group.
Right.
Because I would always make sure that we do battle drill, battle drill, battle drill, battle drill. So as soon as something happened, we knew exactly
How to respond.
what to do, how to do it. And at that moment, I had those people be in the same shoes that I was. Well, they get frustrated at me, like, hey, we just want to take a break. We already know this. We already done this. Da, 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 da. And I would tell them, it's like, when it happens, I'll find out if you know what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I want to kind of go back into a situation that literally just happened a couple, I don't even think like probably less than a week ago, to be honest. I always talk about when it comes to dudes and emotion, because when you're too emotional, you throw logic out the window.
Right.
So what was going on is that we were taking another drone attack, right? My roommate, he's kind of a he works in the place where they kind of see all the reports and stuff.
Okay.
And so he's very jumpy. He's very, very jumpy. He's scared and all that stuff, right? When the stuff was happening, he got his stuff, he ran to the door, right? He got stuck there.
Oh my goodness.
He got stuck there. He could not figure out how to unlock the door.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He was just going. And I'm like, hey, bro, the door is locked. Unlock the door. You can get out. Just that calm.
Right.
And then he stopped. He realized, boom, and then booked it. Still
Right.
left my ass. He still left my ass to die, right? But those goes into the point where if you're not ready for that 1 minute, your reaction could be something that you did not expect. Like he forgot something that he does every day. Like every day you go in, you close, you lock your door. Right? Something that simple.
Right.
Can go out the window without taking that time to think about that unforgiven minute.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is
It's crazy.
preparation, right?
Yeah.
It's like what you're talking about. This guy, he would rehearse. And if I think about, like my life, or maybe for those that are listening, it's you don't know. That's the thing about the world, and that's the thing about life, is you don't know what that challenge is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if it's going to be a drone attack.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know if it's going to be a death in the family.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're going to lose your job because you were falsely accused of something.
Yeah.
You don't know. Again, you don't know if it's your best friend that is going to betray you,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe your spouse. These types of things happen, right? And it's through that, through our own mental preparation and understanding, what do you believe? Do you even know your own philosophy or your own principles?
Mm-hmm.
Can you define them? And then if you have, do you live up to them? That's my whole, but do you?
Yeah.
But do you?
Yeah.
And then through repetition, right? And that's what you're talking about, rehearsals. Through living that way again and again and again. Hey, somebody cuts you off in traffic. What is that? That's called an opportunity.
Yeah.
To deal with, like, how do you respond? Do you respond emotionally, or do you respond with with grace,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it's through those little repetitions, the weather is another thing I hear people complaining about all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have any control over the weather. And
Yeah.
all complaining does, it makes it worse for you and everybody around you. Oh, it's so damn hot today. Oh, it's so damn hot today. Oh. And all you're doing is refocusing that on yourself. And then anybody around you that's listening to that, now they're reminded of that.
Yeah.
Right. And, or you just accept reality for what it is, living in accordance with nature.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, it is what it is.
The
And
sun's gonna be hot.
it's right. Birds fly, right?
Yeah,
fish
fish
swim,
swim.
and sun's
It's
hot. Summers are hot. It is what it is. But those are, like, again, it's a hot day. Good. This is an opportunity to discipline my mind on other things other than what the temperature is. And it's those are rehearsals, the little things.
Yeah.
It's those little things that teach you over and over and over.
Yeah, well, for that freaking PT test that we love to do, right? That, like, sometimes it'd be like Central, right? You know how hot it is, Yuma, same thing, right? Yeah. So I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna go run my 2 miles at freaking 1 in the afternoon, because if I can do it and do it well at this hour, I'm gonna be able to do it at any time that we normally tend to do it, right? Because we put risk assessments into everything, right?
Sure.
So that's where all that training and preparation goes to. But we have been doing this for a little bit over an hour. So what would be your parting words of wisdom?
Well, let me start by living up to one of my own principles in gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to sit here and talk to you today. I think I learned a couple things that you talked about when you talk about, like, rehearsals and that kind of thing. That's the idea of rehearsing and taking those things with me. But gratitude is really what I want to kind of part with, is that I think not only you for this opportunity, but everybody that has been in my life, that has moved me in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
That has helped me understand what leadership is, what how to live a life of honor, how to be a good father, friend, husband, like I said, leader. So everybody out there that has gotten me to where I am in my life, um, that's kind of where I want to leave it, is with a feeling of gratitude, because despite the world being what it is, which I do believe is a tough place, there's been a lot of good people in my life that have helped me get to where I am today. So,
For sure, man. Well, I appreciate it, and we got to do it again.
all right, thank you.
That-
Take care.
For sure.